Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We are delighted to have one of our partners, SPS Commerce, joining us. Chrissy and Sean will be presenting on Fuel Your 2022 Growth with EDI Automation. And as a reminder, we are recording this webinar and we will post it to our on-demand webinar library for you to review again or share with anyone. And you can find our library under our resources tab on our website at innovia.com. And we encourage you to ask questions during our presentation, so please feel free to type them into the questions box and we will answer them at the end of our session. So now I'm going to turn it over to Chrissy to kick off our presentation.
Thank you so much, Angie. Appreciate that very much, and welcome to the Innovia team / customer folks. Thanks for your time today. We're going to spend just a couple of minutes here talking about probably your favorite topic, which is EDI, and really what it just means to you is your ability to do electronic purchasing with your big box retailers, buying organizations, distributors. As Angie mentioned, Chrissy Matheson here, sales leader at SPS Commerce. I've been here for 16 years. 13 of those years have been spent squarely focused in the Microsoft space. We've partnered for a long time with the Innovia team, and Sean and I are happy to be here. Sean, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Sean Martin. So I am a product specialist with SPS. Actually formally came over with the acquisition of Data Mason's EDI. I have roughly a little over 18 years of experience, with ERP sales, implementation, pre-sales, and so forth, and about 4 or 5 years experience focused on EDI, primarily around the BC environment. So nice to meet everybody.
Thanks, Sean. He will definitely be your favorite part of this presentation because he's going to give a demonstration of the product, which I know everybody gets really excited to look at and ask questions. So as we think about the faces for you in this market, Sean just introduced himself. The other really important person that you will come across in this market at SPS is Judy Weston. She's our strategic channel sales manager and lives and breathes everything Microsoft inside of SPS. So you probably have seen Judy and I and probably Sean at some of the trade shows over the years. So I will give you her contact information at the end. I promise she's a friendly face and super knowledgeable. So as we get into today, we're going to spend a couple of minutes on the EDI landscape, talk a little bit about how SPS Commerce does EDI in a full service environment and why it's different and how it's valuable to your business, especially as you think about potentially migrating ERPs to D365 BC, or if you already have BC deployed today, how it can enhance your current environment in your business. As I mentioned, Sean's going to give you a lively demo. We'll talk a little bit about what support and implementation feels like with SPS, and then answer any questions that you may have. As Sean hit on as part of his introduction coming from the Data Masons team, it may be new news to some of you, but a little over a year ago, SPS Commerce acquired Data Masons. And what was important and impactful about that engagement is SPS and Data Masons have been partnered in the Microsoft space for well over a decade, servicing joint customers. As the two businesses continued to evolve that relationship over the years, it made sense that that marriage finally come true. On the left-hand side there, you'll see some stats about SPS. We are publicly traded, so you can check any information out online if you choose to. My favorite part of this one is we are celebrating our 84th consecutive quarter of growth as a publicly held company. You can imagine we're pretty proud to serve customers that helped us get to that place. On the right hand side there, you can see all of the expertise, the IP, the personnel, and really domain knowledge that SPS inherited as part of that Data Masons acquisition. Large Microsoft footprint, their technology was built to enhance Microsoft products. And when we ultimately plugged that technology into the power of the SPS Commerce Network, we really saw acceleration for our customers as well. You may be asking yourself how much experience SPS has in the Microsoft space. We've been in this market for a long time. So together we bring 25 years of Microsoft partnerships, 200 plus dedicated Microsoft experts. So when you think about that, you can think about that in two ways. People who not only are EDI and supply chain experts, but also married up with the Microsoft D365 expertise that really helps us to consult with our customers for efficient implementations and support over time as your business evolves. We've got a total of servicing 1,800 Dynamics customers. And from our perspective, world-class solution that we're bringing to the Microsoft market. So when we think about the EDI landscape, everybody knows that fulfilling orders is complex. And typically, SPS has been doing this for 20 years. Typically, what we see is companies that fall in one of these four buckets. And I'm confident that you will identify quickly with one of these buckets. Sometimes it's companies that are new to EDI or they have evolving EDI needs and they really need help even understanding the impact or what documents they're needing to exchange, what the business process is. Then they typically grow into having multiple trading partners or multiple customers they're supporting. Sometimes they're moving into the spot where they've got complex supply chain issues. So many trading partners, third-party logistics providers, potentially freight brokers, carriers, all of these entities that have to touch the data that gets their product from their place of business into the hands of consumers. And then a lot of times we see our customers in that system replacement zone. You may be in that spot yourself. Don't worry. Many companies entrust SPS Commerce when they are migrating or upgrading their systems because we understand the implication of ERP deployments in relation to EDI. EDI technology is supposed to make life simple. I have yet to find somebody who actually says that EDI makes their life simple. When it's done correctly, you can save time, money, and resources. But when it's not done correctly, that's where the pain around those areas come to fruition. Unexpected expenses, poor customer experiences, just pain across the business. After 20 years in this industry, servicing 30,000 plus subscribing customers, we've identified 7 key areas that are required for a successful EDI deployment. And that doesn't matter if you're doing it yourself in an on-premise environment, working with software and point-to-point maps, or if you're working with another EDI provider, or frankly, working with SPS. If you don't have all 7 of these components, the EDI solution that you're currently or potentially going to work with is not going to meet your business requirements. So at the very top there, technology, you can think about that as literally the translation software that takes it from EDI into something Business Central can process. The trading partner expertise is really the nuanced language that Costco, Target, Walmart, Procter & Gamble has to exchange that information. Each one of them is very different. And I promise you, they don't get into a room to try to figure out how to make your life easier. Then you've got to design and configure that solution to meet your business needs and the needs of your customer. Once you've done that, you have to figure out how to communicate that information. So whether that's VAN, AS2, FTP, API, or whatever new communication language gets invented, then you have to figure out what are the testing requirements that Costco and Target and Procter & Gamble have. I have to adhere to those testing requirements. You finally get to a place where you've gone through the testing process, you turn that light switch on, and you're exchanging data. But your job doesn't stop there in terms of an EDI solution. That solution needs to be proactively monitored and analyzed to ensure that the documents are getting where they need to be, or it has significant impact to your business process. Think about not getting orders, or think about sending a batch of invoices out to your customer that don't get acknowledged, and then The next thing you know, the CFO is calling saying, where is my payment from Walmart and why do I have these open receivables? And then it's the ongoing resources to ensure that all of the steps that you took to get that connection live, you stay compliant with your customers as they change systems, add documents, and make changes to their EDI environment. What we find in the market is that the other solutions only cover about 50% of what you need for a successful EDI deployment. A lot of times they'll have technology to translate data, they'll have some design and configuration, and they'll give some resources in a support model, but it's reactive. So it's you calling them to say, ooh, the invoices I sent to Walmart, they haven't paid me, what's happening? Versus that proactive nature that would alert you, hey, the invoices that you sent has this particular issue, here's what you need to do to fix it, it gets resolved. When we think about the impact to businesses, what we typically see when companies first start coming to SPS and we're trying to understand what they're trying to solve, here are some commonalities of things that we see all the time. Because the EDI deployment is so complex, we tend to work with companies who have a stack of customers that have asked or demanded EDI, but the company is unable to accommodate because of the strain on IT resources or the backlog that they're staring at. There are unpredictable costs in terms of IT or potentially customer service trying to chase down potentially what went wrong. And then if you're familiar with chargebacks, you certainly have been in EDI long enough to know part of the reason why it's painful. Because when you don't get it right, your customer charges you back. Therefore, not only potentially damaging the relationship, but also falls into that unexpected cost category. Now we'll talk about SPS and how SPS does EDI and why we're different. On the left-hand side there, we think about our business in three rings. The center is the technology and tools. We were first to market with a cloud-based network solution 20 years ago. We have continued to invest and evolve that technology over time to ensure that we're ahead of what our customers are going to face exchanging electronic purchasing or EDI documents. We have the people and the expertise who understand how and when and why and what is happening with your end customer. Think the Costco, the Walmart, the Procter & Gamble's of the world. We have people dedicated to understand how those things are built because our network is reusable. So if we make a change for Costco, we're making a change for all companies that are connected to Costco. The process and the relationships ensure that we provide discipline and that proactive nature of understanding the tooling and how to anticipate what could potentially happen during both an implementation and a support perspective. My favorite part about how SPS operates is we lead our customers. EDI is the focus of our business. We've been doing it 20 years. So to say that we've seen it before, we've probably seen it thousands of times. And so our job is really to help our customers to optimize their current environment. A little snapshot about the network. We have 500,000 pre-mapped connections, 3,500 buying organizations. So think about them in retail, manufacturing, distribution, grocery. In the center there, 1,000 3PLs. So what it means to you is we have 1,000 third-party logistics warehouses in our network that are pre-wired, that service other customers in that 30,000 subscribing customer camp. And this has been incredibly valuable to our customers, especially in the last 2.5, 3 years, as I'll call it, the market has shifted in terms of dropship. And many companies had shipped bulk to Target before, but they hadn't actually put a product on a customer's front porch. So they've flexed and they've leveraged those 3PLs and warehouses in our network to be able to expand their business. As a publicly held technology company, we have all of the security certifications that you would expect from us. And as I mentioned, we're publicly traded. Today, we're talking about the blue box in the center, which is order data or that electronic purchasing. But SPS does have additional solutions that support you in this electronic exchange of information around your products. On the left-hand side there, for item data, you have to get your item data to your customers, whether that's EDI, Excel spreadsheets, phone calls, email, snail mail. SPS has the ability for you to upload your item information into our platform, and then we share your item information with your customers, whether Costco has a different price point versus Target versus Procter & Gamble. We manage the logic for you, and our customers really value that because they're leveraging that platform as their source of truth. We all know item information, some of it lives in the ERP, some lives on your online site, maybe at the warehouse, it's all over the place. So we really view it as a way to aggregate that data, but then also leverage the same network infrastructure we have, because we know how Costco and Target and Procter & Gamble want to receive that item information. On the right-hand side there, for sales data, for those of you that sell to big box retailers who offer sell-through data, what products sold at what store location on what day. We basically take all of that sell-through data and dump it into a dashboard that gives you instant insight into the trends that are happening. This isn't forecasting. I would say that this is sell-through data that you can marry up with or use in addition to your current forecasting, like another sliver or layer over the current forecast model or solution that you may have today. And then if you do connect with manufacturers or suppliers of your goods, SPS can help onboard those as well if that would have value to you. What we're looking at now is a current environment for somebody who is working with either their own EDI solution they have deployed internally or potentially working with another provider. The reason why it's hard is because on the left-hand side, all these trading partners have different flavors of documents, different document types, different communication methods, and then you've got multiple integration points to D365. So it becomes a difficult integration to manage because there are so many tentacles that are different in nature that have to be managed. The reason why SPS Commerce is invaluable to our customers is because we insulate them from all that complexity. You still meet your customers' requirements the way that they want to exchange data. We just stand between your ERP environment and them. And we're standardizing all of these documents into a language that can exchange information and speak D365 BC, if you will. So you're now dealing with inbound orders, outbound shipping notices and invoices and acknowledgements. You're not dealing with an inbound 850 from Costco. No, you're dealing with an inbound order that fits all customer requirements because we're normalizing it, and you're dealing with a D365 BC inbound order. You don't have to necessarily care from an EDI perspective where that came from. As I mentioned to you, your favorite part of this time here with us today will be the demonstration that Sean will give us. So Sean?
Sure. Thanks, Chrissy. So before we actually go into the demo, I just wanted to cover a couple of key concepts in terms of the integration layer that we offer with D365 Business Central. So you're going to hear me refer to this concept of being tightly integrated yet loosely coupled. And really what that means to our customers is we take an external approach to EDI. We actually offer our own data store, our own SQL database that sits outside of Business Central. And this allows us not to modify the core code of Business Central to support the EDI environment. Because we don't make any changes to ERP, we will not interfere with your ability to take your next release. And we all know with Microsoft and their one version, primarily with the cloud, you're going to receive anywhere from 4 to 5 releases a year. 4 are going to be smaller releases, 1 is going to be a major release, and we will not interfere with your ability to take that next release. So that becomes a really, really big deal to our customers. from the standpoint of limiting how much effort and lifting goes into those upgrades. On the left-hand side, you'll see our retail network, basically your supply chain. One thing to note is we can work with any of your trading partners in any of their document types. So whether your trading partner wants to communicate via X12, US EDI standard, over in Europe, Edifact, Tradecoms, etc., we can work with all those EDI standards. We can also work with any of the different formats that some of your trading partners may require: EDI, XML, CXML, ASCII2, etc. We also, as Chrissy had mentioned, will take on all of the management of the communications exactly the way your trading partners want to communicate, whether that be through a VAN, AS2, FTP, SFTP, API connections with your marketplaces, and e-com sites and so forth. You'll also see as we go into the product demonstration that the solution is browser-based. So that gives our customers complete visibility no matter where they're at. They can pull the solution up on any mobile device. They have instant visibility into the status of any of the transactions that they're exchanging with their trading partners. You'll also see, following Microsoft's best practices, that we utilize the extension layer within BC to introduce contextual hyperlinks within Business Central to give you complete visibility into what is actually taking place from the standpoint of EDI, where it looks, acts, and feels much like you're still in the Business Central solution. Security, we have security across all your touch points, HTTPS, TLS 1.2, Azure Active Directory, and then of course, multi-factor authentication. The integration layer that we're utilizing with Business Central is an API connection. It's the OData integration framework. Essentially, we're using data entities to populate any endpoint within Business Central, exchanging JSON messages. And when we get into the product, also, one of the other things too, if EDI is functioning exactly the way it should be, nobody should be thinking about EDI. However, from time to time, there are going to be some exceptions. So how do you manage those exceptions? Well, we're going to do that with email communication. We can send out automated text messages. We can take exception reports and we can send those out on a regular cadence throughout the day. And then, of course, we also have our dashboard that I'll cover here shortly. The idea is clear communication all the time to make sure that your transactions are properly being received and sent to your trading partners. And with that, why don't I take the ball and I'll go ahead and share my screen. There we go. All right, so what I thought we'd do from a product demonstration standpoint is we'd start within the Business Central environment, and then I'll go over into the main EDI adapter, and we'll cover a couple of key points from that side of the world as well. Before we go into the Business Central environment, if you think about this, SPS, we've already, connected to all of your trading partners. We're going to perform all translation on all documents. We're then going to bring it in. We're going to standardize. So we standardize all data, from your trading partners into our standard, which is referred to as the RSX. Once the data has been standardized, we're going to consume the data into our data store. And now that it's in our data store, we're going to do validation against master data within ERP. When everything checks out, we're going to integrate the data from that document into ERP with only the data required for the creation of the sales order. So when I come into the solution, again, everything is automated. So it's not that your team has to connect to the network. It's not that your team has to actually run the, import process. This is all automated. It's all set up behind the scenes, making this as efficient as humanly possible. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this newly created sales order. Right before the meeting, I actually came in and we released the order. Now, as I had mentioned, back to that concept of being tightly integrated, but yet loosely coupled, up here on the top, you're going to notice that I have this EDI tile that we've introduced through the extension layer within BC. When I go into the EDI tile, there's a couple of visibility points that we'll give you. The first is the Transaction Lifecycle Explorer. And really, this is to give you visibility in terms of that inbound purchase order transaction, along with when I release the sales order, the sending back to the trading partner of your PO acknowledgement. When I click on the TLE, just for time's sake, it's going to pop open this browser, and you notice that it's just simply a browser that gets opened. The idea here is that it looks, acts, and feels just like Business Central, because this solution was built, specifically with D365 in mind. So when I'm looking at this, we're going to show you every one of the transactions that have taken place from the standpoint of this order. So here you can see, you got your inbound PO, you got your PO acknowledgement. So it's showing you all of the transactions thus far that have taken place. Now, as I go through this process, and let's say we went through the process and we do, our posting, and we're going to ship an invoice, this particular order. So I've actually, if we've done that, I'm just going to go over to sales. We'll go to posted invoices. And again, when I open up, this posted invoice, we're again going to give you visibility into the status of all the transactions that you've sent or received from this trading partner. Now, down on the bottom, this is that concept I had mentioned, management by exception, right? So if EDI is functioning exactly the way it should be, nobody should have to think about EDI. However, on this side of the integration, if there is going to be an exception, it's typically going to be related to either missing data or bad data from the standpoint of Business Central. So how do we communicate that? Well, we do that through email communication, text messages, and so forth. So when I actually click, on this error, what it's going to do is it's going to present what the problem with this document is. It's also going to lay out a solution. This is a standard operating procedure that's emailed to somebody, let's say in accounts receivable, or it could go to somebody in customer service, where it lays out step by step by step what they need to do to correct this. Or it could go, to an EDI coordinator, somebody that really oversees EDI. But ultimately, the idea here is that we want to present tools that allow your teams to be able to go in, edit this actual document, make the correction, and then simply reprocess. The idea is we want to take some of the heavy lifting off of IT. We want to take some of the heavy lifting off of a dedicated EDI resource and really give some of the tools back to your team, so that way they can quickly and efficiently correct some of these documents and get them out to your trading partners. Lastly, from the standpoint of ERP, let's say, for example, I were to go in, we're going to look at this specific customer that we've set up, and bear with me one second, and I'll just get to target here. Again, from the customer card in Business Central, for more visibility from an EDI standpoint, we'll give you additional links that give you that visibility that you'd ultimately be looking for, such as if I want to see all documents in a hold status for target, they're right there. If I want to look at my item cross-references, my ship to cross-references, everything is one click away to give you that complete visibility in terms of everything you need to see from EDI, but again, without modifying the core code of Business Central to present this. Lastly, just to go through a couple of key elements within the main EDI adapter. When you come into this solution, as I had mentioned, from a visibility standpoint, you're going to notice that you have a dashboard. It's really meant to be a landing page for anybody that's overseeing EDI. In the landing page, we're going to present a number of key performance indicators that anybody that oversees EDI is going to want to see. So when I come in here, the first thing you'll notice is we're laying out this data. Documents on hold outbound, documents on hold inbound, exceptions by process, critical alerts. I have a product activity summary. The other thing to note is that these are all interactive. So you're one click away, and it's actually going to pull up the data that represents these invoices that are currently sitting in a hold status. So it might take a second to pull that up, but it's going to give me that visibility. And there they all are, right? So this way I can go in, I can effectively manage these. If I need to edit the document to reprocess, I can go in and edit. If If I'm on the phone because I'm disputing an invoice with a particular trading partner, I can add notes. But the idea is right from here, as I go in, correct, edit, modify, then I can simply select those documents. We can set them back to a ready status. And with our automation, we'll reprocess all those documents immediately for you. So with that, I just wanted to give you an idea of what the integration looks like from the standpoint of Business Central. So I will turn it back over to Chrissy, and we'll go through some wrap-up slides.
Thanks, Sean. All right, so now that we took a look at the demonstration, we have just a couple of additional things we want to cover in terms of support and some additional features. So what Sean just demonstrated was the automation with BC. Oftentimes we find that our customers have EDI requirements from their customers where they're unsure of the order volume. So maybe Costco wants to order your product seasonally, and you don't want to invest in a big, automation project with them when you're not sure they're going to continue to buy, or the volume. So SPS Commerce does have a fulfillment solution, which has the same compliance. It's plugged into the same network, the same full service approach. You see a snapshot of it here.
Chrissy,
yes.
Your slide isn't showing. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know why that's happening. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay, please hold for 1 second. I purposely did not touch a thing.
What does your sharing options show? There we go.
And you can see it in presenter mode?
Correct.
Yep. And then just
okay,
swap.
awesome. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, you gotta hit the swap.
What's that, Sean?
Do the swap settings.
Oh, I see.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. So as I was mentioning, that fulfillment solution, you can see it here. Super easy to use. So it allows you to have that compliance with the retail trading partner, but not necessarily the automation project. Now, it's important to note, your customer doesn't know whether you're using our fulfillment solution or automation with BC, just that it's an easy way for you to gain compliance. So we can turn a fulfillment solution on in, generally speaking, 24 hours or less if it's in our network. So when we think about full service support, 3 ways that you can think about that is the major differentiator here for SPS. We lead the implementation, the testing, and the consulting to be able to help you solve your problems. Very simply put, we call your customer's EDI department so that you don't have to. So that means we're calling Target and Costco and Procter & Gamble's EDI department on your behalf to solve the EDI portion of the problem. You have something, as Sean was demonstrating earlier, where you get an order and maybe that SKU doesn't exist, or the price is wrong, or the shipping address is wrong. You can edit all of that from an automation perspective in your ERP, but when it comes down to straight up EDI issues, SPS solves that on your behalf. We also have training and education here. Obviously, many of the companies that we work with are high growing, fast growing companies. So we don't expect you to be the expert on how to, work with SPS. So as you guys expand and grow your team, we have training and education available to support you and your team as you go on that journey. A lot of companies ask us how we stack up against our competition. And the way that we like to talk about that is purely in the center here from a retention perspective. So as I mentioned, we have 30,000 subscribing customers here in the network, and our retention rate is 86%, which is world-class. So a lot of the times when customers are leaving our network, it's because they no longer have a need for the solution. Last year alone, we took 780 competitive wins from our competitor solutions. And if I had to sum it up into the common denominator was the inability to help that company grow reliably. So whether it was in terms of the automation or it was in terms of that proactive monitoring, they were really struggling there. Thank you so much for your time today. As I mentioned, I would leave you last with Judy's contact information. She is the partner manager for Innovia, so if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to her. She has been in this business, I think she's been here 17 years, over a decade in the Microsoft space. So you can feel free to reach out to her and she can answer any questions that you may have, even if you're just in the exploratory phase. Appreciate your time very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, Sean and Chrissy, we do have a couple of questions that have come through. So the first one is, do I have to change core code or customized D365 BC to support our EDI environment?
I'll take that question. So, during the presentation, I talked quite a bit about the external approach with our integration with Business Central. And again, that really allows our customers to stay away from any modifications required within ERP to support the EDI environment. So the answer is no.
Okay, thank you. And next question, how will our EDI solution impact the ability to take the next release of D365 BC in the cloud?
So again, because we do not touch the ERP from the standpoint of any modifications, customizations, anything of that nature, we will not interfere with your ability to take the next release, of Business Central. And as I mentioned with Microsoft in their one version, you're going to receive about 4 small releases throughout the year with one major release. And over the last almost 5 years, working with D365, both finance and supply chain, along with Business Central, we have yet to interfere with one of our customers' ability, to take their next release.
Okay, thank you. And a couple more. What if my customer needs to connect to a trading partner that's not in your network?
Sean, I'll maybe take that one. So if you have a customer that you need to connect to that SPS doesn't have experience with or isn't in our network, no worries. That's how we built the network over 20 years. So we reach out to them. We understand what their requirements are. If you think back to the 7 components, we build it out in our network, test it, launch it at no additional charge to you.
All right, sounds good. And what's the process if I have a current NAV customer using SPS and migrating to BC?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually, and I think illustrates the power of the network and SPS. So if you're a current SPS Commerce customer, that means we've already got all the connections to your customers. And the only thing you're swapping out, and I say only, not to mean that deploying BC isn't, a big technology project there, but we can insulate you from that change with your customers. So as you bring BC online, we're going to do some testing with BC and the automation side and basically plug those connections directly into BC. So if you were not an SPS Commerce customer, we would have both an EDI project on our hands and an ERP project on our hands. If you are a customer, you're removing the complexity for yourself.
All right, great. Well, thank you both. I believe those are all the questions that we have for you today. If anybody has any additional questions, feel free to reach out to Judy or Sean at SPS or your account manager here at Innovia Consulting, and we would be more than happy to address your questions further. So I just want to thank Chrissy and Sean for the presentation today.
Thanks, Angie. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Angie.
Thank you. And to everyone on our webinar, or if you're watching on demand, we thank you for taking the time out to join us. And be sure to check out our website for more of our upcoming events, and that's innovia.com/events. We also have our training workshops on our workshop page, and that's innovia.com/workshops. We have a variety of them to fit your role, so check out the ones that are right for you and your team and register today. Or request one if there isn't one that we have a set date for. And if you haven't heard our latest Innovia Conversation podcast, we have a library of podcast episodes for you to listen to, and you can learn more on our podcast page, and that's innovia.com/podcast. So browse through the selection and subscribe so you'll get notified when those new episodes air. And don't forget about our customer conference, innovia.com/conferences. You can visit that page to get all the details of our upcoming conference on May 4th and 5th at the University of Notre Dame. This is a free event for you to attend, so make sure you read up on all the details and register today so you can meet Sean Martin and Judy Weston from SPS Commerce, the Innovia team, and our ISV partners and clients. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you again, Sean and Chrissy, for the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you soon at another Innovia webinar. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.